Hello, my name is Dr. Hiro Nakatsuchi. Do you have an illness that doctors cannot cure? I am going to tell you that God can cure you of any illness. I know you may be skeptical of my claim. This is not an info commercial where a prestigious doctor tells you that he has the secrets to living longer, and eventually, after listening to an hour of basic nutrition, finally tells you that you need to buy his special formula for a special price today. My advice is free to anyone who is willing to listen. Let me give you a short history of myself. I grew up with the teachings of the Tenrikyo religion. My father became a reverend of a small church consisting mostly of family members, and my mother took over as reverend when he passed away. All through my youth, I was told that Tenrikyo people could cure others of illnesses. I remember my mother visiting Japanese who were ill and praying for them. I don't recall any miracles she performed, but I remember how she sometimes got encouraged when they improved. My sister-in-law passed away from cancer before she was 30. We prayed, but she was not saved. My father, before his yearly pilgrimage to our holy city in Japan, succumbed to colon cancer at the age of 72. I remember the bishop of our North American church even prayed for him, but he was not saved. As you can see from my past experience, I was not confident what Tenrikyo people could save others from illnesses. And I wondered why, in the early stages of our religion, so many people were cured and converted to our religion. Where are these miracles today? In the Tenrikyo religion, unlike the other major religions that have a large compilation of ancient books to study, there is only one book in our religion that we agree is from God. This made it very easy for me to do research. The compilation of over 1,000 verses is said to be from God. The Fudosaki is the scripture I have studied extensively, and from this information derived have come to the conclusion that God can heal you from any illness. I apologize for the poor presentation, as I am not very competent with the computer and the internet. I hope someone can help me someday with this, but for now, please scroll through the written documents with me as I tell you how God can heal you from any illness. Do you have an illness that doctors and medicine cannot cure? God will heal you. In our scripture, God tells us, however serious an illness will become, I never say it will not be cured. In the Bible, Jesus and his disciples were said to have healed the sick. In the beginning of our religion, thousands of people were cured of their illness. But where are the miracles now? What are the ingredients to make these miracles happen now? Does this require believing in God and having faith? Does it require making donations or making a pilgrimage to a holy site? The following is from the Tenrikyo sacred scripture. The saving of those whom doctors are unable to save is the foundation of the path. You tell them the teachings, they listen, and they are healed. God will heal you if you understand the soul. Why would God heal us if we understand the soul? To answer this question, we must first find out why there is illness and suffering. Why are some people afflicted with cancer? Why do people suffer from diseases? Why do people get into accidents? Why do I have these intense headaches? Why am I depressed? Why do bad people appear in our lives? Are these all random events or planned by God? God tells us that these events are not random or created by God. God has been a spectator since the creation of mankind. Though until now, God has never come out into the open, no matter what unpleasant occurrences one experienced. God tells us that it is our own soul that brings upon joy or suffering to us. Above all, guard your soul, for everything you do flows from it. God tells us that we do not understand the soul. The first verse of our most sacred scripture begins with, "Looking all over the world and through all ages, I find no one who understands the soul." What is the soul? The soul has been called the heart or the spirit. Scientists have not yet located and verified the existence of the soul in our bodies, but many of us believe that it exists. We believe that the soul is composed of energies. These energies will manifest into our fates and our thought patterns in our minds. It is these thought patterns and their proportions that distinguish each individual from the other. It is these thought patterns that influence our behavior, especially when fate is manifested by our souls. God tells us that it is our own souls that monitors our thought patterns and our behaviors by collecting and storing our merits and demerits as energy, and it eventually releases them as joy or suffering back to us. We reap what we have sold. But some people will say that they can't remember having sold evil, yet they suffer. Others will boast that they have done evil, yet they do not suffer. It is as if God places a wall in front of us by the prolonged lapse of time between cause and effect. We cannot see what fate exists around the corner. This lapse of time between cause and effect often extends into our previous and our next lifetimes. These are the concepts of reincarnation and karma, where our memories are erased upon our death, but our pattern of thoughts and our fates are saved to be manifested later in our next lifetime. What makes this possible? Enter or exit the soul. God tells us that our physical bodies eventually decay, but our souls continue for eternity. Metaphorically, our souls are like little suitcases that contain our pattern of thoughts and our fates, exiting our bodies at death and entering our new bodies before birth. One can say that we live forever because of the soul. By what mechanism does the soul operate? Upon entering our developing bodies, the soul programs our minds with our previous thought patterns from our past life. There are no surprises to what thought patterns our bodies receive from our souls. We have the same patterns of thoughts that we had acted upon in our past life. For example, if we succumb to greed in our past life, we have the same thought of greed in this lifetime. The same neural pathways of greed are reestablished. One can say that our souls, upon entering our bodies, create and restore our own individualized minds. Besides our thought patterns, the soul also contains our fates that were created by acting on these good or evil thoughts. These fates are eventually released back to us as joy or suffering by the soul. We reap what we have sowed. For example, if we acted upon the thought of greed in the past, the soul will bring upon sufferings and obstacles back to us to remind us of these thoughts we had acted upon. One can say that our fates are closely associated with our current neural pathways or thoughts, since it is these same thoughts that we had acted upon in the past. God tells us that we must remove these evil thoughts from our minds. But how do we know if we have evil thoughts in our minds? These negative thoughts often bring upon an emotion or temptation. For example, when we have the thought of arrogance, often the emotion of anger will arise. Temptation appears when we have the thought of greed or self-love in our minds. The presence of these negative emotions or feelings are telltale signs that we have evil thoughts in our minds. What do we do when anger or temptation arises from these negative thoughts? Most people would direct their anger or temptation at what appears to be the source, which could be a coworker, stranger, spouse, circumstance, or even God. But if we understand the soul, we acknowledge that it is our own soul that brings upon these challenges or fates. These obstacles are only messengers of our souls. Our efforts will be directed to calm our minds and ponder our evil thoughts, therefore not acting upon what emotions were elicited by them. By this process, the neural pathway of the evil thoughts become less prominent, and the emotions they elicit will also decrease. This is how we gradually eliminate our evil thoughts. Eventually, by this process of not acting on our evil thoughts, especially when our soul brings upon sufferings, we can purify both our minds and our souls, where only positive thoughts emerge from our minds and joy flows from our souls. What happens when we act on our evil thoughts? When we act on our evil thoughts, we cause suffering to others, and more evil thoughts are created in our own minds. The neural pathways for these thoughts become stronger, and the emotions they elicit become stronger to resist. This causes us to continually act upon our evil thoughts, causing more demerits which our soul collects. The soul eventually releases these demerits as fate. The cycle of suffering will continue until we understand the soul. God is not on the sidelines anymore, but will begin to work to have the world understand the soul. God grants us the blessing of healing so we can begin the process of purifying our minds of greed, arrogance, regret, and self-love. By this process, we can prevent any illness or suffering in the future by our own efforts. If you have an illness that does not go away, what can you do? Understand the soul and ask God to heal you. Then God will heal you of any illness. For more information, please visit heavenstruth.com.